Hello and welcome everyone to our June virtual user group. I am Shay Bagwell, and this friendly face you see here is my good buddy Stephen Brayford. He will be your presenter for today. I know a lot of you guys are very familiar with Steve and have worked with him in the past, so we're excited to have him as our featured presenter today. Couple of things before I turn it over to him. Just as a reminder, this webinar is being recorded. So everyone will receive a copy of the recording. We will also post it to the ibi.com, and it will also be posted to our YouTube channel. So several ways that you guys can go back and review the recording. I will send out any material that Steve is able to share with you guys. That will also be included in the follow-up email. So be on the lookout for that. If you have any questions for Steve during today's webinar, please utilize the Q&A feature. And we will be monitoring those and answering those as they come in, or we'll just take them all at the end, depending on Steve, if you want to stop your presentation or not. So but feel free to use the Q&A. And with that, I have a couple of things to talk to you guys about real quick. So let me share my screen. Find my presentation. All right, slideshow mode. Here we go. Okay, guys. So as I said, welcome to the June virtual user group. Today we're going to be talking about unlocking self-service in WebFOCUS Designer and doing a filtering deep dive. So Steve's got a lot of great material lined up for you guys today, and we're looking forward to seeing what all he has. Just as a reminder for you guys, the ibi.com is your one-stop shop, all things IBI. So if you are looking for product information, if you are looking for blogs, if you're looking for what events we have coming up, data sheets, all of that you can find out here. You can also access the IBI support portal out here. The IBI community and the education platform is coming soon as well, and you can access that from ibi.com. As I mentioned, you can access the support portal. So if you guys are having issues or need to put in a ticket to the IBI support, you can do that through here. Also in the support portal, you can access documentation, the product downloads, new product notifications, and get assistance from those technical support representatives out there. So be sure that you have this bookmark because this is also a really great resource for you. You can also navigate to the e-delivery portal where you can download the products and choose to view the different products that we have. I know it still is under the TIBCO URL there, but it is for IBI products. So we are working to get that updated for the IBI. As I mentioned, all of our events, webinars, all of the Focus Fridays, the virtual user groups, and in-person events can be found on the website under the event section. So you can see what virtual events are coming up and register for those. And then you can also register for our in-person events, like our Golden Summit coming up in October. So this is a very important event for IBI. It is celebrating our 50 years of innovation, 50 years of IBI. Some of you guys have been with us for a very long time, and we are so grateful for your loyalty to IBI. So come celebrate this golden milestone with us in New York on October 14th. Registration is open and the agenda is now live. So you can preview that agenda, check out what we're going to be showing. We've also got a couple of special guests that will be speaking. And we've also got some other cool little perks that are coming with the Golden Summit. So if you're able to join us, we greatly would appreciate it. We would love to have you guys. If you have questions on this, please do not hesitate to reach out and ask me. I'm happy to answer any questions and any material or content or anything that you might need to maybe justify your trip to New York with your organization, your managers. So please let us know. The IBI community, just as a reminder, is another resource out there for you guys. You can log in and view all the technical threads going on, get involved in the conversations with our IBI experts and your peers across the board. Also recently, Focal Point. A lot of you guys are very familiar with Focal Point. We have recently migrated all of the Focal Point content to community. So therefore, Focal Point, the site that you guys went to, obviously is no longer. Some of you guys have already figured that out. But all of that content is in the community now. It was 20 something thousand articles that we have uploaded in the community. You go to the articles section and then you can search by the topic of whatever it is that you're looking for using keywords. And that will bring up any of the content that was in Focal Point that covers said content keywords that you're looking for. So just want to make that announcement. A lot of you guys have been asking about it. And in case you aren't in the community, we have been making announcements in the community. So I'm making this a broad announcement. All the Focal Point content is in community now. As I mentioned, the article is written by IBI experts, so you can get out there and see what some of our experts are posting about and get some how-to videos, training, things like that. That's available out there as well. And then the IBI education, just as a reminder, our education platform is live for you guys. So if you are interested in any training courses, that is available. Feel free to head out to the education platform and register. We did a whole virtual user group on this. If you'd like to see the recording, I can send that over on how you gain access. If you are having trouble gaining access to the platform, please email education@ibi.com and we will help get you in there or figure out why you cannot get in there. So lots of new courses. Again, we add courses every quarter. So your training and your skills will progress. Getting social, if you are on any of these platforms, we'd love for you to give us a follow. LinkedIn, X, YouTube, follow us on there, subscribe, be in the know when we're posting for any updates or upcoming exciting news from IBI. And then also, if you are not receiving any of our emails, this includes our invites for events, the monthly newsletter, or just any email at all from IBI, please let us know. Need to look into that and see why you are not. And if you would like to be receiving those, I just need that confirmation from you so we can opt you back in. A lot of you might accidentally be opted out, and that's a quick fix on our end. Hannah could not join us today, so I'm going to quickly just touch on her two programs. We've got two programs going on right now that Hannah Knox is running. One is the WebFOCUS Upgrade Program. So if you are ready to make that move and upgrade to the latest release, we have a program that will help you do that. We also work with our partner Amtex to make this a pretty seamless transition for you. We've got tools to go through the upgrade. The IBI team will walk alongside of you through this journey. So if you are interested, the first step is to go out and register for the program, and then Hannah will get in contact with you and start explaining, the different steps and what the next step would be for you. So if you are thinking about making that move, ready to make that move, please fill out the form and let us work with you. All right. I guess I lost the slides for the AI bootcamp, but we also have an AI bootcamp. I apologize about that. If you guys are interested in that, I will have Hannah contact you with more on the AI bootcamp. So just put that on your evaluation form if you would. Other than that, that's all I had for you guys. So I'm going to turn it over to Steve, and he will start talking to you about some WebFOCUS Designer self-service.
Okay, thanks, Shay. Good morning, everybody. Let me go ahead and share my screen, and Shay, if you could just confirm that's coming up.
It is. There it is.
Okay, very good. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and turn off my camera just to preserve some bandwidth here. Okay, well, thanks for joining us today. We truly appreciate your time, and I know we've got about an hour and a half dedicated for this session. We may be able to give you guys some time back in that. I think I'm aiming to be within about 45 minutes to an hour or so. So for those of you on Eastern Standard Time, we'll get a nice early lunch break. Okay, so the title is around filtering and portal capabilities in WebFOCUS Designer, kind of empowering your self-service BI. I know there's already a couple of questions. I'll get to questions at the end, and if I have time to be able to answer questions that come up, I will. I won't be able to answer the Q&A directly, but I'm sure Shay, we can carve out 5 to 10 minutes at the end of the session for to answer as many questions that come in. Okay, so really the whole goal is to kind of start off. Being as this session is being recorded, my overall goal was to give a comprehensive overview of filtering, both beginner and advanced, more advanced functionality when it comes to filtering. It's aimed towards the latest releases of WebFOCUS. So if you're on an earlier release, there may well be some discussions of functionality that might not be in your release. So I do want to make that disclaimer. But really my goal is to encapsulate all audiences. So I know a lot of you are more advanced users. Some of this, of course, may be redundant or maybe too simple for you at the beginning. That's fine. Hopefully some of this content will be useful. And if if you want, you can share the materials with other folks. We're going to create some shareable materials to send out to you guys. So you'll have all of this at the end of the session. So confidentiality and disclaimer, of course, there are certain things that we might discuss in this presentation that may change. And we, the document, everything that we provide is for informational purposes only. Quick agenda of what we're going to cover. Look, I'm going to give an introduction to WebFOCUS Designer and what filtering is and why it's important. Basic filters, we're going to talk about the foundational control of what you see on the screen. More interactive capabilities, so giving users their choice of different kinds of filters, whether it be simple data filters, being able to do things like parameter prompting, or choosing selections on different things like dimensions and measures or output format. And then we talk about advanced filters, a little bit more granular control and personalization of what people can see. And then talk a little bit about best practices. I mean, I don't think, when we talk about filtering and we talk about best practices, I think a lot of people are going to do things a certain way depending on how their organization is shaped and the information that people need to see. And then being able to kind of integrate filtering with security is a big topic unto itself. And I don't think we can go into too much detail in that today. But of course, WebFOCUS has got a very robust security mechanism behind it that you can leverage. And filtering can play a big role in what people see and what they're allowed to see. So, and then of course we'll have some Q&A hopefully at the end. Okay, so let's begin with a quick overview of WebFOCUS Designer and why filtering is kind of so crucial for self-service BI. WebFOCUS Designer, of course, is a web-based development tool for quick and easy content creation from multitude of data sources across the organization. And it really allows users to prepare raw data, create diverse content like charts and reports, assemble them into interactive pages, and apply filters for dynamic exploration of that data. And really the comprehensive suite of features empowers users with robust BI capabilities. And filtering, of course, is essential for that self-service, enabling users to narrow down vast, complex data sets and find specific insights that they need to do their daily job. When we talk about kind of basic filters, we're going to really begin with fundamental filtering options that provide kind of a consistent and straightforward control over the data that you see. For instance, static filters. Static filters, consistently apply a predefined criteria to your content. They're really configured at design time, and they'll remain active without kind of user input, right? So there's many ways to apply these, but it's really effective when a consistent set of filter values really needs to be applied to a single content item. Really ensures data consistency and reduces runtime overhead. And filters can also be added directly from a master file. So underneath the covers, you can leverage filters to embed pre-established data constraints into the reports and charts and ultimately dashboards and portals that you see. So we accomplished that, from a singular standpoint. You can apply single select lists in Designer, and we're going to do some demonstrations here in a minute. We're going to sprinkle in some demos as we go, so it's not all going to be PowerPoint, FYI. So single select lists, they're a common filter control for alphanumeric and numeric dimension fields, and they allow users to select only one value from a list of options at runtime. The content then would instantly refresh upon the selection and provide immediate feedback, right? So that's truly the goal of single select lists. But then, of course, you've got more interactive filters and kind of empowering user choice. So moving beyond basic filters, WebFOCUS Designer offers a range. There's a range of interactive filters for dynamic control over data. For instance, prompted filters, of course, central to interactive self-service. Unlike static filters, they allow users to actively select filter values at runtime. These selections are made through various controls on the filter toolbar, and they can be dynamically affect all content on the page or any reference content using the same parameters. So you can have also a notion of global variables that can carry through to any content within the session. Over and above that, you have kind of grouping filters that allows you to have more complex logic behind your filters, allows you to embed where clauses that have either ands or ors or a combination of the two. And they're designed to kind of shelter the logic away from casual business users, right? So you really want to make sure that users are not able to select invalid data. That's really the goal of your filters, is to ensure that the user experience is such that they will constantly get results back no matter what they select, right? Or be at least informed that they're making an invalid decision. And grouping filters kind of allows you to do that and create complex filter logic that suits your data. So building on from single select lists, of course, you can have multiple select lists that enable users to choose multiple values simultaneously. The content then kind of refreshes after you've made that selection, and the user clicks outside the control. So you could make these selections, multiple selections, move them over from left to right here. And for large data sets, these controls also include things like search features and paging for easy value selection and manageable display. So select all as well and clear buttons are also available for convenience for the end user. And of course, your use of this is obviously going to be determined by the data that is surrounding the filter. In the case that you see here, obviously I've only got seven different selections here. It may not make sense necessarily to have a double list box or something like this to manage the selections, but I just wanted to put a screenshot in there so you all knew that capability was in there. So when it comes to filtering, it's not only dimensions that we have to manage as well. Sometimes you need to provide selections on numeric fields. So slider controls are ideal for numeric fields. They kind of allow users to define that range of values by sliding the markers on a horizontal track that you see there. This is kind of perfect for filtering by quantities or prices or other numerical measures. And they can also be configured for open-ended ranges, such as greater thans or less than a specific value. Date controls. We're going to get into date time in a minute, but date controls. So WebFOCUS recognizes date fields, right? If you've got one defined, and provides automatically will provide like an intuitive date control that allows users to filter by setting start and end points for a date range, as you see in the picture. Also offers like a convenient preset relative date ranges, like this month, last X number of days or weeks, or last year. Kind of simplifying all those common temporal filtering tasks that most people need to do. So toggle controls. Now, toggle controls are kind of a compact way and kind of an intuitive option for single selecting parameters with only two possible values, such as a yes or a no or a true false flag. Didn't have an example here, so I did actually design a toggle around a product category, which actually can be quite useful because you can also use it to toggle between two-dimensional values, and you can choose which two-dimensional values you needed to. So if you had a large list of product categories, I wanted to make sure that the end user only saw the ones that I needed, you could apply a toggle switch to product category to make sure that they can only see the two values maybe that are important to them. So again, from a UI perspective, it's mostly used for yes, no, kind of Boolean, true, false, binary options more than Boolean, I should say. Users really you can really use it on any dimensional field and then pre-select which values they see as part of that toggle. Okay, so let's take a quick demo and kind of see what we're actually looking at here. Let's go. Oh, just about to time out here. So let's go and create some content. I'm actually in version 9.3.0 in this in this scenario here, but it really doesn't matter because all the features and functionality that I'm showing here is applicable for pretty much most of the WebFOCUS versions from 8.x onwards. But anyway, so let's go ahead. Here we're in the IBI WebFOCUS Hub. For those of you who haven't seen it, this is, like I said, this is 9.3. So it's not the latest and greatest version. We're actually on 9.3.4 right now. But, this will give you a kind of a flavor of the workflow used for creating content for those of you who have not seen it or need to familiarize yourselves with it. So here I have some pre-existing content in my little filtering folder here. I've got a whole host of other workspaces, but I'm going to start creating content in this particular workspace inside of this folder. And I click on my blue icon, my blue plus icon here, and I can start something new. I'm going to go ahead and create a visualization. And as long as my app hasn't timed out here, I'll go and the first thing I've got to do is I've got to select some data. So I'm going to go into my WF Retail. We'll pick my WF Retail Lite master file that's here. So the first port of call is to actually choose some data that I need to work with. And a quick designer tour here before we get into the filters. Down the left-hand side here, you have the fields pane. Also, some variable options are here. I have variables that are defined in the master file here that these are, think of these as those binary switches that I can turn on and off. I also have some geography variables or filters here that are applied, as well as some, additional on different tables. So customer table and store table here for geography. Going back to the fields listing here. So to actually apply fields to the canvas is very easy. It's a simple drag and drop. As we all know, or most of us should know, just dragging models over here gives me model information. I could once I drag things onto the canvas, WebFOCUS is intuitive enough to know that it needs to apply a numeric field as a vertical on the vertical axis here. Here you see the canvas, and on the right-hand side here, we have access to different graph types, chart types, report types here as well. I'm just going to minimize that out of the way. And then when it comes to filters, there are really two kinds of filters that you can apply here. There are implied filters that I can drag in here. For instance, product category. If I drag product category in here now, I'm going to get a filter dialog box that asks me where I want to get the values from. Do I want to enter them manually? Do I want to select them from a file? I have many ways of being able to get access to the data. So say, for example, I just wanted to bring in camcorder here. Go ahead and save that now. I'm automatically going to get everything filtered out by product category equal to camcorder for anything else that I do in the canvas, right? So it's like an implied filter that's under the covers here. The user would never see this at runtime. It's a good way of just kind of putting an embedded filter into your content, and it's something that the user wouldn't necessarily have access to. On the top, however, this is data that the user would have access to. So for instance, here, I can start building content and have an interactive filter such that I could pick multiple product categories and have the canvas and everything associated with it update simultaneously when I make decisions on this filter toolbar. Now, another way of embedding filters right here within your data set is to skip across to the data tab. If you skip across to the data tab, it's actually going to go out to the reporting server and pull back kind of the modeling view of the way that our data looks. And when I select columns in here, double click on that now I've got all the fields that are in my data set appear here. Down at the very bottom here, I can apply filters directly in here. So if I come out here and say product now, it's going to give me the ability to grab product category, throw it in my filter pane, and be able to then say, okay, I want computers. And when I hit OK now and go back to visualization, you'll notice that the visualization has been updated with that selection made in the master file. So now when I come back and show, say, for example, product subcategory, and we'll just bring in discount there, notice how, that's actually reflecting that implied filter that I put in the master file dynamically here, right? So this is another way of being able to kind of start to restrict the data that people see and be able to give an easy-to-use interface for users, maybe on a complex data set. You don't want them seeing everything that is available to them. Okay, so we're going to come back here. I'm going to go ahead and delete that filter that I really don't want that in there. So when I apply the filter on the data here, and it looks like that's gone out to lunch. So we'll come out and build something else. But when I apply that on the data there, it's a good way of doing it. But you might want to put that inherently into the master file to begin with on the server, and then any content that you build from that will reflect the filter that you embed in the master file. Here, we're doing it still on a report by report basis, but it's a good way of being able to embed that filter right within the content that maybe that affects users. So, for instance, if I build a dashboard using that procedure, then that would automatically inherit that that filter in the master inherent to the report, not inherent to the entire data set. Hope that makes sense. Okay, so let's take a look at some of the other things that we can do here. We've got, of course, not only filters on dimensions, but we have filters on measures as well. So if I go back and I start building again here, and I could, of course, bring in here, let's look at gross profit. And then if I drag in, say, revenue in here, oh, I get an error. Why do I get an error? That shouldn't be there. Okay, let's switch over just in case I have an issue with that. Let's build it over here on my other machine. Come prepared, they say. You never know when things might not work for you in a live demo. So, oh, let's try that again, shall we? It's the same data set. So here we'll drag model over, and then we've got, let's do revenue. And then we've got gross profit. We'll bring that in as a slider. So this allows you to have control over the numeric values that are in the report. Now, by default here, it's creating it at a post-aggregate level, right? So here we're looking at the sum of all the products across, or all of the models across our entire data set. I can get more finite with it. I can say, if I right click on this now, I have options to make the filter greater than or less than or equal to a certain value. And that would filter out everything that's not applicable there. Or I could say even filter on, and I can look at, say, detail. Now, when I do detail, now it's going to now reflect the individual line item transaction values of gross profit for each of these models. And now I can come in and start filtering these if I want to make sure that I filter anything with, and you can be fine grained with these as well. Even though the slider is like that, I can get to a certain point and then I can use my arrow keys on my keyboard to make fine adjustments, right? So if I wanted to say, okay, let's do that and click on that now, you can see that everything updates according. So now we're looking at all of the products, the models that bring in revenue for us, where their gross profit is somewhere between negative 260 and $125 per transaction. That doesn't, of course, mean that they don't bring any revenue in. If they have a negative gross profit, they still have sales, but they may be unprofitable, right? So here we're kind of seeing that, and then you can use other analytical techniques such as adding color to the report, or adding additional features to see how products compare to one another. But here, a basic filter for a numeric value gives you the ability to be able to do that using a slider. Okay, and then the last one I wanted to show was a toggle. And I really don't have a yes, no that I'm going to work with here, but I'm going to show, actually, I won't show it here. Let me show it to you kind of in the Designer hub itself. Because this is really something that you would apply if you have a binary kind of field, but I wanted to show you the actual toggle can be applied to more than just a binary field here, and how you might want to think about using this to help restrict some of the features or some of the data that people see. Right, so here I've dragged in my built report that I built earlier, multi-select products. So I've got some filters over here on the left-hand side. So when you're assembling a page and your page includes filters such as this, where you've got multiple components, right? When you assemble the page, they're going to look like this, right? So I've got, I'm going to bring these in. And here we have our region, we have a category, we have a city. And I'm not going to do anything with this. I'm going to come back to this report a little later on in our demonstration here. But what I wanted to show you is that you could, in theory, convert this this dimensional listing with multiple values in it, right? If you come across a scenario where, oh, I just need to give access to certain values, I can get a toggle switch here that will allow me to toggle between the two, right? That will also be able to interact with other values that are on here as well. I don't have that set up in this report yet. We're going to do that a little later on in the demonstration. But what I can also do here is I can change the values that appear here. So for instance, I could come out here and say, okay, we'll do stereo systems as the value for 2. And of course, that's now stereos. And so here you can change the switch accordingly there. So you may have a whole laundry list of product categories, but only want to showcase 1 or 2 of them. And this is certainly one way that you can do it. But I did want to show you how a toggle actually works in the UI and how easy it is to implement. Okay, let's go back to the slideshow for a minute. And let's move on past. We've done date control. Oh, we didn't do date controls, but I'm going to come back and show you that in a minute. Let's look at now more advanced filters with granular control and personalization. So, advanced filtering techniques, they'll offer you more granular control and start to kind of build out your sophisticated self-service apps. Let's look at chaining filter control selection. So chaining, and you can see the example of it in the video that's playing in the slide here. It's a good way of ensuring your filters always return the valid data, right? When a value is selected in one filter, the other related filters dynamically update to show the only relevant options. And that prevents invalid selections, which you really never want in a UI. For new content, multi-directional chaining is the default, updating all the alphanumeric filters. For existing content, hierarchical chaining is common, where the selections only really affect fields lower in the same hierarchy. And I'm going to show you some examples of this in a minute. But you can manually chain to develop custom relationships within your data, which is great if you haven't already set up the relationships in the master file. This is a good way of kind of circumventing that and creating something a little custom for the end user. All right. So default values. Now, they don't have to be static. They can be dynamic, and they can be folk exec or procedure driven. Um, so WebFOCUS Designer provides a lot of capabilities for personalizing default values based on kind of user identity or specific conditions. Right? So this is achieved by leveraging global variables. So being able to populate a global variable, which can be dynamically populated using a procedure, as I mentioned. For instance, a user's default region or can be automatically set based on their login, or a calendar control can default to a dynamic date range relative to the current date, right? Ensuring, a relevant default value without having to manually adjust everything all the time. We've made great strides when it comes to enhancing and enriching the types of controls that you see, and that extends now also to date time controls. So date time controls have been, now offer kind of more precise and flexible date range selections. When you're creating filters for date time fields, you can now define like a granular time range, including hours, minutes, seconds, even down to milliseconds. Now, the example that I'm showing here doesn't have milliseconds, it's only down to the seconds level. But, if you're working with highly volatile data, maybe milliseconds is something that you need to apply. And if you've got a date time field that is defined down to the millisecond, well, you have a control for that, that you can make fine adjustments on millisecond. Probably very important for real-time manufacturing or a lot of data like that. So as well as that, kind of a critical enhancement was the ability to be able to control and apply time zones to filters, right? So ensuring that the content is filtered accurately based on the user's local time context, even if the data was recorded in a different time zone, right? So that happens. It was obviously a very popular use case where time zone information, if you've got a worldwide application, the person filtering in, say, London, England, may well need to filter data instead of having to filter it based on a defined UTC time or knowing where that data is collected. You can apply the filter based on the time zone that you select, right? Data-less filtering. Now, this is a pretty niche use case, but it's something that may well be needed in your organization. It's really designed for very large or streaming data sources where it's really not preferred or wise, I guess, to retrieve extensive lists of values for filter controls, right? So, that can dramatically impact performance on the report when you run it, or the page when you run it. Data-less filtering kind of addresses this by allowing the user to manually input filter values instead of selecting from a pre-populated list. And what this does is this conserves resources and kind of ensures responsiveness across that data source, especially if it's volatile and is changing quite rapidly. It really makes it a best practice for high volume or rapidly changing environments. It's configured very easily, actually, by a setting in the access file, data size equals infinite, that you apply at the segment level. And I know that's, for some, that might be pretty technical or too in depth, but it really is just one line of code that needs to be added to. It's a property that's set in the access file, which helps define where that data is coming from. And, that way you can ensure and, still give users the ability to input filter values, but the user would manually do that. Now, of course, for some data sets, users may not know the appropriate values of that, and this would not be applicable for them. But for other use cases, they may have expert knowledge of the data source and just need to be able to quickly filter data out accordingly. And this is a good way of doing that and ensuring responsiveness. Okay, so we kind of touched on this a little bit earlier, where talk about summarizing numeric data. When you've got a numeric measure, you can do more than just either summarize it or bring the detail information back. You can choose to filter by aggregated values or individual records, like we did. But we can also do things like average. So if I've got average gross profit in my example, this would be a way of being able to apply that filter and then derive the average value across whatever you're filtering on. And this is a good way of being able to give the user some additional ways of being able to filter the information. Also, just a little bit more in depth on, filtering against multiple values. If I've got double list controls, which you have access to those on anything that's really a multiple valued dimension. So by default, you won't get the double list box, but you can convert a drop-down box to a double list box to give an enhanced user experience. And a double list box is a good way of presenting a full list of values on the left-hand side, and then giving the user the ability to pick and choose which values they're interested in filtering on. Dragging, or not dragging, but clicking the arrow button here to move the filtered list over to the right-hand side. And then you have the ability, the nice thing is, you also have the ability to be able to change the order in which that information is displayed back to the user. You can move the values up and down accordingly. Like you can see here, I dragged over computers. By default, it will list it in alphanumeric order, but here I drag computers above accessories. You can kind of change the sort order in which the key values are brought back. You also have the ability to kind of clear that list. You have the ability to quickly, and you have the ability to search for values as well. Obviously, again, product categories, I've only got seven or eight of these, so you don't need to. But if you might have a list of models that has hundreds of values in there, and I need to sort by all the LG ones, I can start typing in filter LG, and it will automatically eliminate anything else that's not got LG represented in that filter value. All right, let's take another quick break. Let's go back and do some more demonstrations. Let me just make sure I'm in the right spot here. And we'll come back to this in a minute. Okay, just give me 1 second here. Just need to know. Just give me 1 second. Okay, let's take a step back here and see what we were going to do. I did have some additional content here for you. Okay. All right. So let's take a look at. Well, first of all, let's do date controls. We didn't do date controls in the first one, so I forgot to do that. So let's go ahead and we'll just come out of here. We'll leave that. We're not going to save it. And actually, let's go ahead and close that out as well. Oh no, we'll leave that one. Okay, so let's go ahead and create some additional content here. And let's take a look at date, and then I'm going to jump over to date time as well. Now, the reason why I have to jump between two different environments is because on this one environment, the way I have the data defined. I don't have the timestamp in it. So I'm going to show you dates on this one, and then I'm going to jump over to the other one for the timestamp example as well. All right, so here we are. Let's take a look at dates. So dates here, again, the iconography that you see on the left-hand side here in this pane really means something, and it's important to understand what you're looking at as to whether a field is going to be valid for use as a filter or not, right? And do what you're intending it to do. For instance, I'll give an example. So here we've got a hierarchy. This is the symbology for hierarchy. We've got, you know, the levels in the hierarchy. We've also got some attributes that are here that some are dimensional. You see this icon here indicates it's a dimension, or numeric, assigned by the number. But you also have things like this little calendar icon here specifies that it's a valid date. And I can tell that because when I hover over it, it's going to tell me the YYMD format back. So I can safely assume that I can start picking and choosing data based on that, right? So if I just drag in, yet again, we're going to go with our usual product by gross profit. I mean, it's not, you know, the data is kind of immaterial at this point, but if I drag in sale date now and click on it now, I get this user control that is very robust in the things that it can do. And of course, you can pick from these presets. So I've got today, yesterday, I've got, you know, this week, this month, this quarter, this year. I've got last X periods, right? You know, that you can change here. I also have the ability to put in a custom date range, right? So I could choose, you know, December 1st to December 31st. Well, 2025 wouldn't make any sense in this case, but if I do 2021, December 1st to December 31st, hold on. Notice how I can easily select date ranges. Right, when I go ahead and click off that now and hit OK, I get no data back because I filtered it wrong, but that's okay. Maybe that data's not in there. Hold on, let's go back to 2020. We've got 2020. Nope, still no data. I'm not sure why. Let's take a look at when our data is and see what's going on here. So let's look at sale year and get rid of that filter for a second. And oh, we have 2018. Oh, I know why. Because I'm looking at it in live data mode, but only retrieving the first 1,000 records. So if I ran the actual report, it would bring the data back. So if I go back now here and drag this, let's do sale data month. Let's do transaction components. Let's do year month here and see in our okay, so we've got data for January here of 2018. So let's go ahead now and change this to sale date. And now we can see what date we have, but now I can start to apply a filter here if I wanted to quickly by going back to 2018. And we've got January, we'll do January 14th through the 18th. Yeah. And hit OK. And now we only get the relevant days back, right? So the calendar control is very useful for quickly choosing dates. Also, we have data available for date time as well. So if I come out here now, actually, this is not the right master. So let's leave that. Let's go ahead and start building a report, a new report over here. But I'm going to create a different report using a different master here. So I've got this little test data set. And I did the reason why initially when I created the data, it didn't have date timestamp in it. So I kind of now have, you know, date derived from date time, right? So if I come out here and we'll search for time in here, and you can see I've got date time in here. So let's do this now. We'll take product information and then we'll filter by date time. So I can come out here and I can search for product and we'll grab our product names. We'll drag those over there. And then we also need revenue. So I'm going to drag revenue over here as well. And then we're going to filter based on time. So now when I filter based on time, it's going to generate a control that gives me a lot more versatility when it comes to selecting those date ranges, right? So give this a second to load here. This is a very slow flat file that I'm running against here. This will come up very shortly. I promise you. Oh, the joys of live demonstrations. There we go. Okay. All right. So the first thing you'll notice is the time zone. So I do have the option here to apply a time zone, select the country that I'm in, right? Or I can do time offset, right? So I could apply a time zone and do a time offset, which is also nice. Not applicable for what we're doing here, but when now I choose my time period now, I have the ability to do the fine grain control over the start time and end time of the values that I need, which is, again, obviously something that a lot of you will use and need. And so the UI here, gives you that fine grain control. And if we had milliseconds here, you would actually see an extra line item on here to select the milliseconds for the actual value. So I did want to show you that. Let's look now at chaining. So let's go back now to go back to my other example here. Let's do some chaining. So chaining is, of course, a very important part of filtering. Again, as I mentioned before, it's a way to ensure that users can't make invalid selections when they're choosing data, and of course that's mission critical. So let's go in here and choose our handy dandy master file again, and let's go ahead and select our models and select our profit. Now, this time what I want to do is I want to provide, if you notice, first of all, in the hierarchy, or these fields, I should say, are in a hierarchy, the product hierarchy. So by default, when we drag these fields on, the hierarchy is going to provide that automatic chaining, right? So if I drag product category, product subcategory, and product model out here, because I've got this in a hierarchy, this will reflect in the selections that I make. So if I pick, and I'll just show that we've got a whole host of different product subcategories here, and consequently, we've got a whole host of different product models that we need to choose from. Now, if I come out and I pick stereo systems, notice how everything is updating simultaneously. We've got now individual selections for product subcategory that reflect the choice that I made on product category. And of course, that's something that you need when you're making these selections, because again, the objective is to make sure that the user does not have the ability to make an invalid selection. And now we've only got the models that reflect home theater and stereo systems, right? But what if we need to have data that is unrelated in a hierarchy. But we need the UI to reflect the ability to be able to make appropriate selections, right? So let's go ahead now and skip over. Let's close this one. We'll go into this one right here, multi-select products. Now, I've got a, I've created this. Now you'll notice these fields here are not in the same hierarchy. So we've got product, we've got store, and we've got customer referenced here, right? So this is what I want to do. This, of course, when you're in this particular view here, think of this as like a design time canvas where I can, run reports, make my selections. This is not necessarily, although sometimes it is, it's not necessarily the user interface that the end user is going to see. They're going to see a fully built out page. So let's go ahead and kind of build that page out now. And yeah, we'll go ahead and save that. All right, so now if I come out here, let's go ahead and close that. I'm going to build this again. So if I now come out and add and assemble a page, and we could choose from one of these common templates that are there, and you can actually create your own custom templates and store those out for users to use. For ease of use here, I'm just going to use a blank template. Now, here's our report that we were just in, the multi-select products. I'm going to drag that out to make it nice and wide and big so we can all see the data reflected. Notice again, WebFOCUS is intelligent enough to realize that there are filters associated with this piece of content that need to be added to the page in order for it to be successfully run. So it now gives us an entire filter option here that we want to leverage. Now, a couple of things to note here. I'm going to add these filters to the page, and they'll all show up here in the in the page filter toolbar. I have multiple options as to where these filters can go, by the way. I can put these not only in the page itself, I could create a modal window for these to go in, which is disconnected from the page. I can put them above the header. I could put them on the left-hand side of the canvas, almost like the default auto prompting that some of you may well be familiar with. By default, it's coming below the header here, but I wanted to let you know that just by default, there are multiple options as to where to put these page filters. I'm going to show you that you don't even have to leave them there. They can go in anywhere on the page, and I'll show you that in a second. So here we've got a 4-filter view here. Notice how I'm pre-selected for product category accessories, right? So it's got a default option there because that's the way that the report was saved. Now, I want you to pay attention here to the layout of where these fields are in the toolbar. Now, it may be subtle, but you can notice that there is an indentation here between store business region and store country. The reason being is those two fields are part of the same hierarchy. So by very nature, if I pick store business region here, North America, I'm automatically going to get the countries selected for Canada, Mexico, and the United States. The challenge is nothing else is going to be impacted by that. So my goal here is to make sure that the user cannot have an invalid selection. Now, they can have an invalid selection right now because if you notice, I've got every customer city in here, and there's 821 pages of customer cities in here. So it's imperative that if I'm going to give the user the right experience, I don't want to have them sift through each one, even though I can turn on a search bar for that. I'd rather them not have the ability to make an invalid selection. So the way I can go about that is by starting to chain things together. Now, what I might want to do is chain my products, first of all, to my region. And now what did I do? All I did there is just drag and dropped the way these appear on the page, right? So, um, so store country, for instance, can go right underneath store business region here, just like it has, or it could go above it. That's fine. I can drag it out, but I really want store business region to be there. I'm going to change the, so what I'm doing is I'm creating a hierarchy embedded in the filters. Now, I also want the customer city to be reflected in the stores that we choose here as well. So now we've got these four fields all acting as one. Now, what I might want to do here is drag product category over and make that kind of the first choice here. And we can clean up this UI in a second, but just for ease of demonstration purposes, here I'm going to select product category. Let's choose a different one. Let's choose televisions. Actually, let's get rid of accessories now. Okay, now notice how everything is updating accordingly. So I've now got store business region. We're still selling everywhere in the world. Let's pick Oceania. Now, of course, we only get Australia, right? And we also only get the cities that are in. Now we're down to 2 pages of cities. And these are associated with the country that we're selling the product in, right? So this is a good way of being able to quickly filter down information, even though that information may be unrelated and coming from different tables. Like, for instance, customer city here is in a completely different table than the store information that we have over here. Okay, so what we've done is they're not related even in the master file that we're using. So what we've done is we've built that hierarchy inherent to the page. So now the user doesn't have the ability to pick an invalid selection and get their information. Now, okay, so we've taken a look at date controls. We've taken a look at training. Let's just skip back very quickly here and just kind of look at the best practices. You know, it's imperative that we try and use best practices when we're designing our pages, of course, and really to ensure that the self-service applications that we build are robust and effective. It's crucial to follow those best practices for designing your filters so that we get performance out of them, that we get security, maintainability, and effective BI solutions require, as you all know, careful consideration in order to make sure that they respond quickly and give the users the information that they need. So, you know, when it comes to data democratization, and really that the goal of that is to make data accessible to every user. And that really means prioritizing that user-centric design and putting together intuitive visual interfaces and drag and drop functionality. You know, accessibility is also key. So I don't know if you guys have to design, you know, things to reach wider audiences. You know, accessibility is important. So considering things like keyboard controls and screen readers and, you know, having the applicable filters, you can only imagine if you've got 821 pages of customer cities that you've got to weed through on a screen reader, that wouldn't be very good, right? So you need to make sure that the filters are nice and concise for the end user and give them the ability to filter those things down in an effective and performant manner. So always consider, you know, where filters are placed on a page to make sure they're easy to find. And by default, as I mentioned before, we've got 4 kind of default places where filters go. But in reality, you can actually make them go anywhere you want. I'm going to show that in a second. Um, Optimizing performance with filters is key. So maintaining the responsiveness of your applications is critical for self-service BI. Efficient filtering strategies, such as using static filters for consistent criteria or dataless filters for large data sources, just prevents performance degradation, right? And that's the last thing we want. Effective data source management, including creating hold files, right? Being able to launch um, filters right off of hold files is key. And one of the things I'll show you in a second is that you are able to drive the contents of filters using stuff other than just the data source itself. I can use a procedure to be able to drive that context, and I'll show you that in a second. Um, so effective data source management, including the hold files, is good. And then maintaining security, maintaining robust security, and it's pretty paramount, right? WebFOCUS obviously, we've been in the industry a long time. It provides a comprehensive framework for that granular access control. Sometimes I'm going to agree it's not the most intuitive way, but it is comprehensive, right? So, guaranteed you can control access to data effectively. Now, whether it's like I said, sometimes I get confused at who needs to see what and when they need to see it. It can be a challenging affair making security, if you're trying to make security granular and very comprehensive. It can be a little confusing, and that is something that truly needs, it's more blending art with science, right? But ultimately, WebFOCUS provides a way of being able to control that access, control the robust security and maintainability, and content publishing kind of acts as that gatekeeper for approved content as well. So, obviously the ability to only publish what you are ready to publish is good. And then, of course, source control management integration allows for, provides version control and historical access to records of how you've deployed things, and facilitates that collaborative development environment. And Git, our integration with Git is pretty good, I think. Always validate your filter logic to ensure that it's returning meaningful and accurate data is the key. So a quick conclusion, and then I just want to end it on another quick demo, is to wrap up. WebFOCUS 933 and 934, they really offer a powerful platform for self-service BI, and has a rich array of different filtering capabilities. And the platforms enhance filtering capabilities from basic filters to advanced chaining and dynamic defaults, and providing users with that control over their data. It adheres to best practices. If you do that, then organizations can deploy solutions that are not only powerful and efficient, but also secure. And I think that benefits everybody, especially as data sets grow larger and larger, and the access to them becomes more comprehensive. I think it's important to be able to put filters in place to ensure that people are getting access to the data that they need and that they should see. So, okay, let's dive for one last look. let's do a couple of things in here just to end. So we've got a filter in here. Let's go ahead and build this out. I can also add parameter listings, right? So this is a way, this is not really a filter necessarily, but it does give the user a chance to choose from multiple types of fields, right? So I can come out here and, prompt name would be choose measure. And really we're choosing the vertical y-axis here, right? I can go ahead and save that now. And now notice, instead of having gross profit in here automatically, I now have the ability to drop gross profit, quantity sold, revenue as options here for my y-axis, right? And I can do the same thing now for dimensions. So choose x-axis field. And here for this bucket type is horizontal x-axis. And so instead of having model here now, I can choose, let's see. So we've got product subcategory. We could put in the model, but we could also pick from a different dimension. So let's look at year, month. So this is now giving me the ability. So when I run this, I would have the ability to choose this. And we're going to add this to a page in a second. I'll show you what this does, right? So the other thing I can do is choose output formats as well. So in here, I can say select at runtime. So not only do I have a fixed bunch of default outputs that I can choose from here, but I can also say select at runtime. And what that's going to do, that's going to create another parameter that will allow me to choose the output format as a user. So I'm going to go ahead and save this now. And we'll call that VUG final. And I do want to show you that it's super easy to create these types of reports and deploy them very quickly in your organization. And I think getting access to content is mission critical. Here, I'm going to go ahead and assemble the visualizations. And again, I could choose one of these options if I wanted to, but I want to show you how easy it is to actually kind of change where your output and your filters go. So I'm going to go ahead and create this. And notice by default, it says a required parameter is missing. That's because we don't have our selections in here. But let's go ahead and add parameters to the page now. Now, these, I can choose my default options in here, right? So I could have a default value. So let's look at, let's look at revenue as my default option. And in here, I could choose a default option, say model. Okay, so now what I can do is if I go through and I pick those, if I pick those right here, now we've got our output back and we can take that. Now, these fields don't have to be in this top frame here. What I could do is I could add a container with a grid down here, and I can resize that. And I can make it, just for instance, a one-column grid. Now, the quick trick is to always go to the outline here, and you can choose the filter bar here, and it will give you the option to select the type of grid that you're looking at. Now, I could add additional columns in here, or sorry, rows. And I think I'm going to need. So what I can do is I can drag in product category into here now. Product subcategory into here. My model into here. I could even drag all of these down here and have these wherever I need them to be on the page. And then at this point, we can kind of delete this grid. And we can even turn off the page filters on here to give ourselves some real estate on the page. And now everything that we have is here. And I can even turn off, if I wanted to, turn off the title and the toolbar for that. Now I just get my filters down the left-hand side. And now I've got the makings of a dynamic page that will run with my stuff here, and I don't know why my defaults are not taking here. I must have screwed up. But if I pick that now, I've got the quantity sold, and that's not very eye-opening. But we could do revenue here, and we get variation in that. Okay, I am going to pause there, and I'm going to turn it back over to Shay. I know we've got a few minutes left if there's any questions.
All right. Yes, you actually have quite a few questions, Steve. So if you want to pull up the Q&A as well,
Yep.
and let's kind of go through these so we can get these folks' questions answered.
Okay, so list of focus errors. Yeah, let me look for that. I don't know specifically which manual it's in, but I know it does exist. So Brad, I will take that as a to do. Complex dot. Yes, I think Rudolph. I think I answered this before I started to. These are the some of these questions are going to be these are going to be addressed in a roadmap. Okay, you asked about link all filters. So link all filters does just that. It actually ensures that there is a path between and that hierarchy is respected on the toolbar. Now, there may well be a time when you don't want those filters to all be linked, in which case you can uncheck that. But link all filters ensures that the filters are selectable. Now, the challenge with that is it may not be applicable to link all filters, right? So that's when you start customizing the relationships in the filter toolbar. Okay, do you have a lot of disparate and or hidden data that you are trying to integrate? What are the challenges of doing so? Okay, so there are, customers have a lot of that. I'm not sure if that's in respect to somebody else's question. I mean, you might want to clarify that question. How can you make the toggle switch default to be turned on where it is switched to the right? That's a great question. I don't know if the toggle can be turned on by default that way. You might require some custom CSS to do that because I don't see it as an option in the data settings for the toggle. So I'm going to say custom CSS would do that for you. I'd like to define dataless filters on field level and still so. Not to my knowledge, Rudolph. It's at a segment level. Has been since it was introduced. I think that would be a new feature request, Rudolph. So if you've got a specific use case, I think that would be useful to have it. Now, of course, one option is to potentially put a field. If you create a business view, you could hypothetically put a field in its own segment. Let me think about that. But trying to see if there's a workaround for you. But it's definitely only at a segment level, which of course a segment could be an entire table, right? So I think it would be a good request. You might want to put a new feature and request in for that. If your data set only has certain dates in it, is there something or somehow to allow only those dates that are available in the data in the date control? No, so yeah, my assumption is that you want the invalid dates to be grayed out. I don't think that would be. I don't think we do that by default. So again, I think you're looking at custom CSS in order to do that. I would like to see that implemented, to be honest, Christy, and I don't think it's in the product right now. So again, that might be a new feature request to get that implemented. is it available yet to be able to chain from right to left and left to right? So when you say chain from right to left and left to right, you can do it in whatever order you specify. Um, I don't think there's the actual order is defined in the filter listing on the left-hand side there that contain the hierarchy. That's how you're going to build your chaining. How you actually present the data to the user is not connected to that. So I can have the chaining going right to left, up and down. It really doesn't matter. The definition of how that's connected is built in the filters toolbar on the left-hand side. Just a suggestion, it would be nice if there was an option to auto close the left position parameters section when used. I know WebFOCUS allows you to drag that window to make it bigger or smaller, but it does not auto hide when not used unless the user clicks on the hide filters option. Oh, I see. So you want it to move out of the way, kind of smooth. So look, I'm going to again suggest that could be done with CSS styling. It would be complex, but you could have, you'd have the ability to be able to. Oh, another way is also possibly interactions might be a way to be able to hide that. Because if I click off the box, maybe auto hide it using interactions. Elias, there might be some ways of doing that without doing CSS. CSS, you could definitely do it in CSS. Provide a default value for toggle.
I think these two from Rudolph might be
Solutions
comments from
to,
his earlier.
yeah, so it will, you can change the value and you can change the label, but you want to set the actual default value. I see. So yeah, no, there is no default concept in there, I don't think. So the default would be really whichever one you specify as label one or label two, because it's always going to default to label one. So if you want label one as, or if you want the default to be a specific value, then make it in value one. Okay, so the question was, can I provide my own min-max values for slider filter control? Yes, you can. Actually, you can change those values in the slider settings, I believe. There is an option for that. Can you turn on and off filters based on other filter values? Yes, that is an option in slider. So I can hide a value and show it. So you can show and hide fields based on the value of a previous field. I think an onload JavaScript option should be built into the designer, maybe add to the designer interaction task options. Often we need to default controls containers when onload occurs. So you can have, JavaScript for the page. And I'll go ahead and very quickly share. Now, I am not a JavaScript expert by any means, but there is a way to have an onload event. So here's how I got to that, by the way. If you're in your page, designing your page, you can come out to the outline here and go to JavaScript, and then you would have the ability to add custom JavaScript for an onload event in here. Hopefully that answers the question.
All right.
Okay.
Lots of great questions. Okay, any more final questions for Steve? I know we are 2 minutes over, so I want to be respectful of everyone's time. If there's a question that you didn't get to or you think of it later, feel free to reach out to us. I'm happy to get those over to Steve and he can address those or put it in your evaluation form and we will circle back with you on those. Just a quick reminder, guys, I did record this, so you will receive a copy of the recording and any of the material that Steve is allowed to share. I will send in a follow-up email. And Steve, thank you again so much for being with us today. And that was an
You're
awesome
welcome.
presentation with a lot of really cool information that you were able to show us.
Very good. Thanks, everybody.
All right, everyone. Y'all have a great rest of your day and a great rest of your week. And we will see you next month for our July webinar. Thanks,
Take
everyone.
care. Bye
Bye.
now.